Veteran UFC middleweight contender Jared Cannonier finds himself in a puzzling position heading into UFC 319, where he's been matched up against the dynamic and unconventional Venom Page. Despite the high-profile nature of the bout, Cannonier has expressed confusion and frustration with the UFC's decision to pit him against a fighter who, in his view, doesn't belong in the division. Cannonier, 18-8 MMA, 11-8 UFC, a former title challenger known for his knockout power and willingness to face the top fighters in the division, will take on Page, 23-3 MMA, 2-1 UFC, on August 16 at the United Center in Chicago. The matchup will feature prominently on the UFC 319 main card, which will be broadcast on ESPN Plus pay-per-view and is headlined by a massive showdown between Dricus Plessis and Khamzat Chimaev. While Page's flashy striking and highlight reel finishes have made him a fan favorite, Cannonier is struggling to understand the rationale behind the UFC's matchmaking, particularly given the stakes he believes are still on the line for his own career trajectory. "The issue I have with this fight is that he's not really a middleweight," Cannonier said during an interview with Submission Radio. "I'm trying to get back into title contention. I've fought the best in the division. Guys like Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, Sean Strickland. I've paid my dues. So, when you put me in there with someone who's not even ranked and has barely competed at 185, I'm left wondering what the strategy is." Cannonier's concerns are not just about prestige. At 40 years old, he remains one of the top contenders in the division and is determined to make another run at UFC Gold. With every fight counting toward that goal, facing an unranked opponent, even one as explosive as Page, feels like a potential detour rather than a step forward. Page, who made a successful UFC middleweight debut by handing Chimaev his first professional loss at UFC Fight Night 250 earlier this year, is known for his unorthodox style, characterized by wide stances, unpredictable footwork, and devastating counter-striking. That performance certainly raised eyebrows, but Cannonier believes one fight at 185 isn't enough to justify this kind of leap in competition. Adding to the drama, former UFC fighter Joe Riggs stirred the pot by suggesting that Cannonier was hesitant when initially offered the Page fight and hinted that UFC President Dana White had him on the chopping block, implying that Cannonier's UFC future could be at risk depending on the outcome. Cannonier